In this video, I want to look at a property that we own on Turnbull Street in Glasgow's Merchant City. I need to assess whether I should be selling when the property is up for refinancing in November 2024. So it's in Scotland, the ownership scenario is currently owned. Now to set up the income inputs. The valuation of this property is $170,000. The mortgage deal that we're looking at is over 5 years. As we amend each of the income inputs, it's worth keeping an eye on the KPIs under annual return metrics. And we're going to borrow 75%, so no change there. We'll lift occupancy to 97%. Marginal tax for Scotland 42% at higher rate tax. The mortgage fee 700, we'll leave that. The mortgage rate, put that at 5.2%. And then rent on this one is 925 at the moment. And we'll set expenses to 37%. Many investors believe that capital growth will bail them out. It's worth taking a look at the drivers of total annual return related to capital growth. And things such as the annual growth per annum is obviously hugely important, but buy-sell expenses, hold years, CGT rate, borrowing percentage also have a huge impact. This waterfall chart visually demonstrates how revenue is used up with expenditure, tax and finance, leaving in this case a negative cash position. Experiment with the mortgage rate and marginal tax and see how varying these inputs affects the waterfall chart. Next we'll take a look at the returns attribution table. I find it incredibly useful to set out the amount that we've invested, whether it be cash or debt, and how that generates a return that we can attribute to either cash or debt. So for example, cash, we've invested 42,500 and we're going to make £966 from that. And debt, we've invested 127,500 of the bank's money and we make a cash loss of £2,519 per year. In the absence of capital growth, rent growth may well be what bails out landlords. It's worth having a look here to see how much rent would have to increase to generate an acceptable return. It's vital to understand the relationship between mortgage rates and net cash returns. As rates rise, returns fall. Knowing the break-even point for mortgage rates enables landlords to plan and take appropriate action. Looking at the break-even mortgage rate, we can see that if we vary the variables such as expenditure, marginal tax, rent and valuation, we'll see that the break-even mortgage rate changes. We can then take a look and see what is the rent that we would need to charge to cover any given mortgage rate. I really want to reiterate tax. In 7.5 Tax Insight, we can see just how dramatic the effect is of changing the marginal tax rate. Finally, by clicking on Summary, we can see all the key statistics. We can see from the summary that we have a net cash on cash return of minus 3.7%. This is a pretty poor rate of return and is only bailed out by capital growth, which takes us up to a positive return of 2.9%. But that is based on a 5% per annum capital growth for the next 10 years. So when this comes to refinancing in November 2024, I will be looking at selling. Thank you.